Welcome to the webinar, Applying Sustainable Procurement to Achieve Greater Energy Performance in Building Retrofits, hosted by the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency in collaboration with World Resource Institute and UN Environment. This webinar is organized under the umbrella of the Building Efficiency Accelerator, which is a part of Sustainable Energy for All Global Efficiency Accelerator platform. My name is Ksenia, and I'm a Senior Advisor at the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. A couple of things before we move to the main content of our webinar. This webinar is expected to last for about 90 minutes, including questions and answer session at the end, so it would be great if you stay with us until the very end. In case you cannot stay or you want to get back to our interesting presentations, all the materials and recordings will be available online in a couple of days after this webinar, and you will get notification about that. You can find all these materials on Copenhagen Center's Knowledge Management System, and we have many other webinar materials and information there, so make sure you have a look. A few things about Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. We conduct research and advisory activities in the field of energy efficiency and serve as energy efficiency hub for the Sustainable Energy for All initiative. The center has an established network of global, regional, national, and municipal level partners with a broad range of stakeholders to help accelerate the implementation of energy efficiency actions and policies. We also support Building Efficiency Accelerator with hosting different webinars from various partners and on a great range of topics related to energy efficiency in buildings. So I'd like to briefly introduce our speakers today. We have Curt, who is currently the City and Buildings Program Manager for UN Environment. We should have had Leszek from the City of Warsaw to share his experiences on energy efficiency actions in the city, but unfortunately he couldn't join due to technical reasons. But we will have his presentation available online as well, and you can reach out to him to ask questions. We have Kedibone, who is currently working at the City of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality as the Deputy Director for Resource Mobilization and Financing. Olatz is currently working with Technalia in the Sustainable Construction Division in the area of rehabilitation and integrated urban regeneration. And we also have Riana, who is working with ICLEI and provides support to ICLEI membership network and also leads the renewable energy program. So let's have a look at our agenda. After this brief welcoming speech, we will have Curt to give introduction to the topic and set the scene. Then we will pass it to Kedibone to share experiences on creating a low-carbon, resource-efficient and climate-resilient city. And we hear from Olatz on sustainable construction through public procurement, and also learn about some innovative solutions focused in near zero energy consumption buildings. And at the end, we will have question and answer sessions moderated by Riana. So about the questions and answers, you can send your question anytime during the webinar, and we really encourage you to do so. You can use the chat function on your panel, go to webinar panel. And it would be great if you will indicate which speaker you would like to address your question to. And as I promised, here is the link to Copenhagen Center's Knowledge Management System. It's a great collection of different sources on energy efficiency. We have publications, different tools, and e-learning section, which I invite you to check because it has a lot of recordings of our previous webinars, and it's a growing collection of the webinars and e-learning resources, which is greatly populated by our different partners. And this webinar will be there as well under the shortcut on Building Efficiency Accelerator. So this is all from my side, and I would like to give the floor to Curt. Curt, the floor is yours.
My welcome on behalf of UN Environment and also on behalf of World Resources Institute, for whom I will provide a brief introduction to the Building Efficiency Accelerator. The Accelerator platform is part of the Global Energy Efficiency Accelerator platform under the Sustainable Energy for All initiative of the United Nations, which has three main objectives. One is ensuring universal access to modern energy. The second is doubling the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency, and the third being doubling the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix, all with the main goal of achieving sustainable energy for all by 2030. The initiative is very much aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, which were adopted in 2015, which includes energy, but includes a number of other Sustainable Development Goals which align and are very closely integrated with energy. As I said, the Building Efficiency Accelerator is one of the accelerators under the Accelerator platform. There's also a energy efficiency accelerator on lighting, one on appliances and equipment, vehicle fuel efficiency, district energy, and industry. The Building Efficiency Accelerator is led globally by World Resources Institute and has support from the GEF, the Global Environment Facility, and has engaged with a number of global partners to help deliver support to cities. Why building efficiency? I think there are three very clear issues here. One is the large impact, the very significant impact of buildings. They consume 1/3 of global energy and are accountable for more than about 1/4 of global GHG emissions. The second is obviously the significant potential that this sector has to help reduce energy consumption and also mobilize finance and investment, and the long-lasting implication, or essentially the decisions that are made now will be locked in for 40 to 100 years. So if we were to achieve sustainable energy for all and double the rate of energy efficiency, many of those global mandates cannot be done without actions in the building sector. And clearly there are multiple benefits for taking actions and focusing on building efficiency, and they are economic because the sector has such a large economic impact, and construction represents about 16% of global GDP. There are social benefits, whether it be access, reliability, health improvements, job creation, and as well, obviously, environmental benefits from reduced energy consumption, associated emission reductions, more sustainable building materials, and resource conservation. In order to achieve energy efficient buildings, there are many actions that need to be taken or can be taken, and many stakeholders that need to be engaged. There's not simply one government policy or one government action that will lead to energy efficient buildings. It involves a series of actions that could include codes and standards, establishing targets, providing information and voluntary initiatives such as certifications, incentives and finance, the government's leading by example, engaging owners, managers, and occupants, so looking at the entire value chain within the building sector, looking for support and engaging technical and financial service providers, and then working with utilities as well. All of those actions, and there are many, many more, will help bridge this efficiency gap, but it requires multiple stakeholders to be involved, and that includes not only governments and utilities, but also developers, design professionals, manufacturers, suppliers, building owners, and ultimately building occupants. So it is throughout the value chain where many of these actions and engagement needs to take place. And this is one of the things that the Building Efficiency Accelerator helps to do, is to engage multiple stakeholders in this public-private collaboration. You can see here many of the global partners that are involved in the Building Efficiency Accelerator. It includes not just international agencies and organizations, but it includes city organizations, private sector companies, technical and professional associations, all again bringing their various expertise and networks to bear within this overall accelerator. The accelerator is delivered primarily in cities and subnational governments, recognizing the significant potential that subnational governments have to help realize energy efficiency, but also to provide incremental support and progress to their national governments. So what happens at the city level obviously can contribute to achieving national targets, whether they be climate targets or sustainable development targets, and national development strategies as well. It's often said that cities can act more quickly. They're closer to people and industry, and so it's important to demonstrate and capitalize on the full potential that cities have in accelerating action. There are 28 cities, partner jurisdictions within the Building Efficiency Accelerator network currently, and here you see the geographic distribution. So it is a good representation of both large and medium cities spread across essentially all continents. What do the cities sign up to do within the Building Efficiency Accelerator? Obviously, we're looking for cities to commit to the overarching goal of doubling the rate of building energy efficiency by 2030. That was mentioned earlier as one of the objectives of Sustainable Energy for All initiative. But more specifically, what the cities commit to is implement one policy, one project, which could be a demonstration project or a pilot project, and to track and monitor their progress, so that these are not just one-off initiatives, but there is a system in place, and the cities commit to creating systematic reporting of their progress. What does the accelerator platform provide? It helps with prioritizing local actions, engaging with stakeholders at the local level, and bringing in international and national experts to workshops to assist in that process. It brings the expertise of the global partners, whether they be research institutions or technical networks, to those cities, and provides training and tools and access to that entire network of expertise that has been mobilized through the accelerator. It connects those cities with potential funding opportunities and financial partners, and it provides an opportunity for international recognition and collaboration of the actions that are taken at the local level. The various topics that are addressed within the accelerator include policy and program mechanisms such as codes, standards, targets, performance information and certifications, things like helping to establish baselines, what type of data is available or is needed to help inform policies, and then helps to identify what might be incentive programs or policies and finance that is necessary to take the actions that are identified through the process. And then again, multi-stakeholder engagement, looking at stakeholder strategies, which stakeholders within the local context are well positioned to take action, whether that be local governments, leading by example through public building retrofits, building owners in either retrofits of their own buildings, better building design, technical and financial services to again mobilize some of the investment and the expertise that is available in the local context, and then working with utilities to look at integrated policies that look at potentially demand and supply. So that is a quick introduction to the accelerator itself. The Building Efficiency Accelerator, again, under the management of the World Resources Institute, is always looking for new businesses, government and non-governmental partners to join the accelerator. And here you see contact information for the manager, Debbie Will, who was unable to join today, but you'll have this information available to you. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about UN Environment's role in this accelerator initiative and some of the partners that we're working with, and more specifically with ICLEI and others on development of this webinar series. Obviously, we see the thematic of procurement for energy efficiency as a significant issue and a significant tool for mobilizing action, and it is a necessary tool. Using the power of procurement as a driver for energy efficiency can lead to lower costs. It can help to demonstrate leadership. It can drive the markets towards energy efficiency, and it will help encourage life cycle costing over the service life of buildings. That's a significant amount of economic leverage when you start to engage cities because of their buying power as well as their GDP, their contributions to national GDPs. The barriers to energy efficiency procurement, as identified by the World Bank and others, include these that are listed here. So they are somewhat typical: lack of information, restrictive policies, incentives, limited resources, aversion to risk, weak governance structures. But there are significant opportunities, obviously, for purchasing and performance contracting. So the objective here, and the reason that there was a specific thematic identified for the accelerator in procurement, is that there are opportunities to mainstream sustainable procurement policies which can facilitate the actions that are identified to achieve better energy performance in the local building stocks, whether that be public building stocks or private. It can also lead to greater availability and utilization of greener products, so it helps to broaden the base of goods and services. It can support label and certification through procurement regulations. And then there are very good examples of success using procurement to drive energy performance. The City of Berlin generated guaranteed savings, about 43 million euro investment, generated about 3.4 million euro in guaranteed annual savings. So the investment in energy efficiency through procurement actually has some significant payback. UN Environment is working with ICLEI. They are co-leads of the 10-year framework of programs on sustainable public procurement. That is one of 6 programs under what's known as the 10-year framework of programs on sustainable consumption and production. There is also a sustainable buildings and construction program under that platform. And you heard in a previous webinar from Farid Yaker, who's based here at UN Environment, on the Sustainable Public Procurement Initiative. So if you're interested in specifically public procurement and sustainable public procurement, that webinar is also available through the knowledge management system at C2E2, and you could go back and learn a little bit more about the Sustainable Public Procurement Initiative. Obviously, buildings construction and public procurement are very much linked. And so UN Environment and ICLEI have co-led this thematic in the buildings program, in the Building Efficiency Accelerator. The Sustainable Buildings and Construction program of the 10YFP is also co-led by UN Environment, but it's led by the Finnish Ministry of the Environment, and you can learn about that program at the 10YFP website that you see here as well. This is just some information about the 10YFP Sustainable Public Procurement Program, and again, you see here the link to learn more about that program and public procurement specifically as it affects other sectors as well. This particular webinar series is, this is the third webinar in this thematic. First was kind of an introduction to sustainable public procurement generally for building efficiency. The second was on project design and delivery and indicators within public procurement. And then this one here is more specific to building retrofits. And there may be an additional webinar developed over the course of the next several months as well within this thematic. So we hope that you find this, the rest of this webinar interesting. And I'll be available for questions at the end should you have any. So with that, I will introduce Kedibone Grace Modiselle from the city of Tshwane, South Africa.
Good afternoon from South Africa. It's Kedibone Modiselle, and just want to say thank you very much for this opportunity. BEA and the organizers, we really appreciate it. And also just to add that thank you for your support since the city joined Building Efficiency Accelerator. I think it has been very fruitful for the city. Just to start off with my presentation, I'm going to be focusing on what the city of Tshwane is currently doing with sustainable procurement, since we have just developed the strategy and it was approved this year. So it's just to touch base on what we're doing and in relation to building retrofits. Okay, this is just a picture of one of our green buildings. It's our headquarters. It's called City Tshwane House. So this is where we are based. Okay, just in terms of the outline, I'm just going to put context in terms of where we are, the priorities that the city has, and the policy, the planning, and the actions that we have in terms of green buildings and building retrofits, and the advocacy, therefore, that we're doing, and just go a little bit deeper to sustainable procurement strategy, and just give you a background in terms of the context for our national government and where the city of Tshwane is and what we're planning to do. Okay, just in terms of the context for our low carbon, resource efficient, and climate resilient development in the city of Tshwane. I know most of you are aware of the rate of urbanization that the cities in general in the world are facing. So as the city of Tshwane, we are one of those cities that are really facing a high rate of urbanization from people from our peripheries in townships and rural areas coming to the city to look for job opportunities. And therefore we have increased housing demands where we need to provide those housing to our people when they come to the city of Tshwane. And of course, now we have to deal with the poor urban environment that we now need to ensure that our infrastructure is now upgraded. And with the rising unemployment that we need to address with the rate of urbanization, that is one of our challenges also. And as much as the city of Tshwane has adopted some of the local municipalities in this area, we still have challenges with limited available land where people can be able to come up with ideas in terms of bringing economic opportunities. And also we need to, as I mentioned, linking to poor urban environment, we need to manage our urban sites. All this we need to do with our limited available funding. Remember, we have we are given funding from national government, that's National Treasury. So we need to allocate the money that we receive accordingly. But be that as it may, as the city of Tshwane, through the Office of the Executive Mayor City Sustainability Unit, we are able to try and check, especially with this kind of platforms, to check where else can we mobilize resources to enable all these things to happen at the same time, delivering all these things in a sustainable manner. So just to put context in what I just said on the previous slide, that we need to deliver all these things at a large scale, given the number of people that are coming into the city, at the speed that it's needed, because if you don't deliver on time, you will more likely have a protest of people saying we need services. And we need to deliver all this with our scarce resources, as I've mentioned, that we get our resources from National Treasury, and we need to make sure that they are allocated accordingly. Then with that said, the city of Tshwane, since the dawn of the new administration, some of you might recall that last year we had national local elections, municipal elections, and we have a new administration. And the new administration has certain priorities and focuses that need to be actioned, though not very far from the previous administration, but it's just to try and streamline the work that the city has to do. And so it's to try and prioritize delivering services, which services includes your electricity, water, waste management, and sanitation. So we're saying as the city, we need to deliver those services in a sustainable manner. We're focusing mainly on the reduction of carbon emission related activities, and we need to ensure that those services we deliver them in a resource efficient manner. And then the actions specifically on sustainable development and low carbon resilience development. The city of Tshwane has committed to, on its new buildings, to try and focus on the buildings to be more greener. And also, the city of Tshwane owns a number of building stocks. So across the city, we have 7 regions. So it's to ensure that when we retrofit or refurbish those buildings, they are retrofitted in a manner that is sustainable and can reduce the carbon emissions, and also try to have some savings at the same time. Okay, just also give a bit background on the policy alignment for our green buildings and the retrofits thereof. The city of Tshwane developed the green economy strategy. This was approved in 2014, and is currently finalizing the climate change response plan. And of course, the sustainable public procurement, which was, as I mentioned, was approved this year, which I'll give a bit more information on it. So these are the key policies, if you may, that the city is focusing on in terms of delivering services in a sustainable manner. Okay, now coming to the case for retrofits and green buildings in the city of Tshwane. After we had those 3 policies that from the previous slide, now we need to come down to say, how do we then know how much of energy in the city of Tshwane is being used? And in terms of carbon emissions, how much are we emitting? Which sectors should we focus on? How vulnerable are our people in terms of climate change risks, factors that are happening? And also, when we have looked at these 3, then you are able to come down to say, okay, let's now drill down to projects that can be able to address the three studies, if you like, in terms of vulnerability assessment, greenhouse gas emission, and the state of energy study that we have completed also this year. So just for an example, in terms of the pilot project, one of the building efficiency accelerator projects that we'll be doing is to retrofit one of our buildings. As I said, that the city owns a number of stock of buildings. So we'll be retrofitting one of the buildings. It's an 8-story building. And the project is advancing very well. We are now doing the benchmarking and the audit of the building. And then the work should be starting in about in a month or so. So basically that's where we are in terms of piloting projects. Also linking this to our sustainable public procurement strategy, to say as we pilot or as we implement these projects, these are the things that we need to do. So those are, I will just elaborate in a few seconds. Okay, here I was just showing that in terms of our green building programs, these are the key areas that we're focusing on: sustainable energy, transport, because I mean you need to have transport available in terms of where your buildings are located, and of course with water management, because South Africa and city of Tshwane, we have challenges with water, so we need to make sure that that aspect is also managed accordingly in terms of resource efficiency also, and of course we're dealing with waste management. Promotion on low carbon and resource efficiency in city of Tshwane. Just to highlight that we are a member of the Green Building Council of South Africa, and we have committed to say there are programs that we would need to focus on for us to ensure that we need to be leaders in terms of green building and building retrofits. Just one example to show that we are serious about this is the new building, that the photo that I just showed you on the second slide when I opened. Our Tshwane headquarters is a 5-star rated green building, and it was occupied this year in June. And of course the sustainable procurement strategy, and the city also has the green building bylaw, so that currently is being reviewed for implementation. But just to bear in mind that the implementation of this also falls into our headquarters that has been opened this year, and also some of the work that we're doing with the Building Efficiency Accelerator. All right, so now in terms of the sustainable procurement in city of Tshwane, why we want to do it, what are the objectives? Of course, our tagline is greening the economy to a low carbon, resilient and resource efficient economy. So for us, it's about sustainable service delivery. As I mentioned, that our common mandate is the city of Tshwane is to ensure that water, electricity, waste management, sanitation is delivered to our people. But we need to do this in a different way, not from the traditional way that we've been doing it. So that is the core of this sustainable procurement, and also to mainstream sustainability into citywide operations. Remember, as a city, you have different departments that you're dealing with. So for us as the city sustainability unit in the Office of the Executive Mayor, ours is to ensure that sustainability is mainstreamed into all these departments within the city of Tshwane. So it's to make sure that the understanding is there, then when the plans are being done for the projects, they know what is it that they need to include in terms of sustainability. Okay, just to give context from a national government, because it's important as local government to try and align with what national government has already. So we shouldn't do things in silos. So it was important for us when we did the strategy to look at what is it that the city, national government has, so that we're able to align with what they do. So we found that national government doesn't specifically have a legislation or framework on sustainable procurement. And the only thing that they have is a green paper on public sector procurement, which was approved or developed in 1997, which is a long time ago. I mean, you can imagine things have changed already. So that was to influence the behavior of vendors to comply with all environmental legislation, offer less environmentally damaging products and services, and to develop products from recycled materials. So that was the context of the green paper from national government. And also just to add to what national government has in mind with that white paper, it's a couple of things. I'm not going to go through all this for the sake of time, because you'll have the presentation, so you can just go into detail about that. But the main thing is to try and try to make sure that we do not develop our country the way we used to. So we need to shift from a traditional way of doing development and try focus on developing things much better than we used to. I mean, for example, the green building rating tool that our National Department of Public Works is working with the Green Building Council, which we are a member of. Of course, that is a big lead from national government to say, we are doing this. So for us as municipalities, then it's going to be easier to filter down the work that the national government is doing. And also the National Eco-Labeling Scheme that the government has. And we've been, there've been discussion of, or we've been hearing that there's a proposed carbon tax as a strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is great for us as local government, because now it's going to be easier for us to preach the message of advocacy in terms of the reduction of greenhouse gases. And I mean, for example, there's currently a levy on plastic bags for those that go shopping, and there's a levy when you buy a new vehicle. There's a tax included in the pricing of the car that you buy. So I mean, those are the initiatives that national government are doing. And as I said, it's easier for us as national government to now even add other things to say, how about we also include other additional factors into this scenario. So for us, this is a good thing, and it's for us to enhance what national government does. And just in terms of the initiatives that national government is currently doing or has been doing, is the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program, Procurement Program. I'm sure most of you will know about it. It has been going on since 2010, and it's within our integrated resource plan from national government. And also, the idea is to generate new power from renewable to reduce emissions by 34% by 2020. So we're getting there slowly. I'm just not sure how far we are in terms of that, in terms of achieving that percentage. But given the projects that are going on within the national sphere of government, it is evident that actually can be achieved. And by the way, just to also say that there's 4.5 megawatt biogas plant in Bronkhorstspruit, it's in Tshwane. So for us also, it's another achievement from the city of Tshwane to say this is where to show and to prove that this is where the city of Tshwane wants to go. And of course, the Department of Energy Solar Water Heating Program that has been going on, I think about 2009. Yes, so that has been going on for quite some time, and it's envisaged to even grow bigger. Okay, just City of Tshwane on sustainable procurement. As I said, that it was approved this year. What we looked at, it was our Tshwane Integrated Environmental Policy that was approved in 2005, and then we look at the Green Economy Framework, which I spoke about, and our current Supply Chain Management Policy, which we had to look at the 7 elements of supply chain management, which need to be consistent with supply chain. With sustainable procurement cycle. The 7 elements include demand management, acquisition management, logistics management, contract management, disposal management, risk management, and performance management. So that is, those 7 are embedded in the supply chain management, and we need to make sure that even with the sustainable procurement strategy, they are there and are included as such. Okay, in terms of the initiatives, before I even go further with the sustainable public procurement, just to show that these are the things that the city is doing. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just in terms of importance for this particular webinar, you will see on your left-hand side the last block there, that retrofitting of public buildings, street lights, and traffic lights. So that is very key for the city of Tshwane to ensure that the message that we preach, we actually are doing that. So it's not for us to say that, as the public, this is what you should do as per the sustainable procurement strategy. But us as the City of Tshwane, these are the things that we're doing, and in doing so, we'll be able to promote sustainable procurement in the City of Tshwane. Okay, when we did the strategy, just a high level, I'm also not going to give details here because of time. We were doing the status quo of what's happening in the city, and we looked at the key spending areas in the city and the most procured supply chain management products in the city. Of course, the municipal services, those are our core, like I said, and infrastructure projects, which we need to invest mostly on to keep the city going. And then the biggest spenders in the City of Tshwane was energy, electricity, in terms of electricity and fuel for our fleet. And you can imagine that these are the biggest contributors to carbon emissions. And this has given us the leeway to have a business case for green transport programs and other low carbon technologies, which include building retrofits, because you can imagine how much buildings in the city, how much energy buildings in the city consume. And then we also have, in partnership with the Department of Energy, our national department, have the initiative of energy demand. I can't remember the acronym, but I'll catch it now. So we're working with our national department just to reduce energy demand and lower energy costs in our buildings, in all city buildings. So for this year, it's just unfortunate that we didn't have much budget to roll out this program. But for the next financial year, it is definitely continuing, and it will link very well with what we're doing in terms of the Building Efficiency Accelerator. Okay, and then I mentioned the seven elements of supply chain management, which will need to be included in our sustainable public procurement strategy. And we need to make sure that the supply chain management system integrates things like planning, budgeting, project management, operations, and maintenance, which is part of what National Treasury needs to see in terms of our Municipal Finance Management Act, circular number 77. And of course, the most important thing that the City of Tshwane is currently focusing on, especially engaging our suppliers, is to consider environmentally certified suppliers. So this EMS ISO 14001 is to say, as a supplier of City of Tshwane, these are the types of products that you need to provide for the City of Tshwane, for us to have low emissions and non-polluting energy and water efficient at all stages of the life cycle of a product and a service. And we need to make sure that those products are not hazardous to the users. And the end of life options include the reuse, repair, recycling, and disposal options with minimal environmental impact. Okay, just in terms of the 7 elements that I had mentioned, in terms of demand, we need to determine green specification. For example, we use the source, our South African national standards in terms of eco-labeling. For example, I spoke about the SENS 14001, and also we have another one for energy efficiency with SENS 204, and also the program with National Department of Energy in terms of energy efficiency. That is linked to the program that the city is working with the National Department, which unfortunately I mentioned this year that we couldn't prioritize because of budget issues. And of course, the Green Building Council of South Africa that we're working with is in terms of the star rating system. So with this is to say, with all our retrofits that we're going to do, we need to aim for a star rating. So the city of Tshwane is looking at, not only just doing the retrofits for the sake of costs, because of course that's important for the city to use money for other things, but also to ensure that we really have technical people who are able to tick and say this has been done well. So it's not about also the quantity, but the quality that you get thereof. And in terms of acquisition management, we need to make sure that without having to go through each bullet point, we need to make sure that when we do our bid documentations for tenders, it is a must, or it will be a must for the greening to be included, or greening elements, sustainability elements to be included in all the relevant tender documentations and adverts. So that will be standard as time goes on. Yes, we have just started it, and right now you can say we're actually at a testing stage, and so far it's being accepted, and we'll just give it time to settle, especially with all the departments, because you would have some departments who are very keen to work and understand the process, but some will be a bit reluctant in terms of, because for them they think greening is more expensive. So we're trying to show them that actually that is not the case. Hence we actually had to finalize the strategy to try and show them that actually there are long-term benefits in terms of what we're trying to achieve. Okay, just in terms of supplier segments and product segments, what we need is to make sure that the following things are mandatory: that original equipment manufacturers, to ensure that, for example, if you have a supplier who's supplying to the city of Tshwane, the source of where they're getting their products, we also need to make sure that that very same person who's manufacturing the products, they are also manufacturing that product in a sustainable manner. Okay. Also, we will look at the contract sizes of what is being brought into the city of Tshwane, and also remember with what we're trying to achieve as the city of Tshwane, we're dealing with a lot of small businesses. So currently we're trying to say to them, okay, this can be voluntary. Just go back and check what is it that you can prove in your operations system, so that when you deal with the city of Tshwane, you're able to provide the services the way city of Tshwane wants, in terms of a low carbon, sustainable manner. So we put this as voluntary for SMMEs, so that they are given time, because remember also we need to train them. And I was glad to hear Curt referring to the 10YFP program, and I'll just need to get clarity there in terms of the possibility of training some of the small suppliers to understand more about the green products and how to go about those. So that's where we are in terms of that. Okay, then in terms of products, okay, we also look at regular off-the-shelf price and delivery, and also standard goods and services which are critical for the daily activities of the city of Tshwane, and also we'll look at the large capital projects. Also, those are very key for the city. So this is also where a lot of sustainable public procurement will take place. For example, as you can see in brackets there, with our key services that we offer: water, sewage, civil work, and our buildings, as mentioned previously. So this was just in terms of the tender evaluation, in terms of when we have now advertised to say this is the tender, this is what we want. Then after that, obviously, when we have an evaluation and adjudication, these are some of the things that we're going to have to look at to say, for greening purposes, this will be what the city is looking for. So it will have to be compulsory at some point. Currently, it is not compulsory because we are still trying to get that buy-in from different departments. As I said, not all departments are on the same level in terms of understanding what the city is trying to achieve. So we are slowly getting there, and I'm very confident that by the end of this financial year, a couple of departments would have been working with us very well in terms of this, because we are advocating, we're doing stakeholder management as much as possible to ensure that departments understand what is it that the city tries to do. And of course, in terms of contract management, I think I've highlighted this, that the environmental requirements must be included in the service level agreement. So that at some point will also be, mandatory for all our service providers. Okay, as much as we have, developed this and it's going fairly well, there are some, barriers to wanting to develop a sustainable procurement, because, as I said, it is viewed as being expensive. And what we're trying to do, we tend to develop a case to say actually that is not the case. So in terms of barriers, you would have policy barriers. For example, with our National Treasury legislation of MFMA that I alluded to earlier. Sometimes you would have certain considerations that are not favorable to sustainable procurement, because you need to focus on those products that are actually favorable to sustainable development. But because you need to be holistic in terms of the different organizations or suppliers that you need to select, that's where the limitation comes from. And also, the legal instrument creates lack of clarity about sustainable practices in South Africa. As I mentioned earlier, the national government doesn't really have a sustainable procurement policy or framework. So it was for us as city of Tshwane to come up with something that will also talk to the white paper, the white paper that national government has. So as much as we have the white paper, it's not clear cut in terms of us saying these are the things that we need to do. So it's not clear cut from national government side, because they don't have like your sustainable public procurement strategy or framework. So it was for us to try and match what government has, national government has right now, and try to match it to what we want to achieve as City of Tshwane. And of course, I spoke about us wanting to elevate our small medium enterprises for the sake of our socio-economic priorities, because as a municipality or as government, there are certain areas of local economic development that you need to focus on. So that linkage between environment requirements and socio-economic priorities is where we have challenges or barriers in terms of trying to elevate sustainable procurement. And I spoke about budget constraints, lack of coordination. But in terms of coordination, in terms of organizational structures, that's what we're trying to do currently, as I mentioned, with different departments and even external stakeholders. So lack of coordination, inadequate capacity resources, and poor monitoring and evaluation, it is a challenge and a barrier. And procurement related, integrating sustainability and evaluating different verification systems. That also we don't have as the city, but we're working on that in terms of the ISO 14001, as I mentioned. And market-related barriers is inadequate supply of environmentally friendly options enough to service the demand. for example, we don't have a lot of, in terms of the amount of energy that we use in the city, in terms of electricity and gas for our fleet. So we don't really have enough alternatives of sustainable energy sources, for example, like your biofuels. Okay, in terms of the enablers for sustainable procurement, I mentioned ISO 14001. That is a very good enabler for us, and it's actually making things easier for us to implement. Training and capacity building in environmental procurement and the link with economic and political priorities. As I mentioned earlier in some of my slides, that some of the priorities that the city has are very aligned with what we're trying to do in terms of sustainable public procurement and sustainable development at large. So the other helping part, and a very great part for City of Tshwane, is the political will that it's there, the understanding of us wanting to, transition the city to a low carbon and resilient city. So that is a score for the City of Tshwane, where we have that political support and will to be able to implement all these things that we do. And of course, public and private initiatives. I mean, for example, with this one, Tshwane House has been developed with a public-private partnership. So that shows that there is that relationship. It does exist. It's there for City of Tshwane. Financial instrument role in fiscal sustainability. It is there, but it is in terms of specific departments. For example, as I mentioned, with our Department of Energy, and you have other government-owned entity like your South African National Energy Development Institute that we're working closely with in other projects. And you have some of our DFIs like your Development Bank of Southern Africa that manages the Green Fund. So there is some money available, so that is able to assist us in terms of trying to implement some of the projects, apart from what we get from National Treasury. And of course, the integration in terms of facilitating collaboration and information sharing in real time for critical measuring of sustainable procurement progress. And then just to show in terms of opportunities created for sustainable procurement in the City of Tshwane. As I mentioned, the retrofit of city buildings. So we're looking at water management, energy performance, and waste management areas. Of course, energy being the key one, because when we looked at our greenhouse gas inventory exercise, we have seen that energy is actually the most emitting sector in Tshwane. That is followed by transport and then waste management. And of course, there are plans in terms of developing green neighborhood developments. One of those is in the east of City of Tshwane, and the certifications that I spoke about, with our headquarters being rated 5-star, and the development and usage of solar PVs in city buildings. So some of the buildings that will be retrofitted, we will make sure that the solar PV is the key source of electricity in our buildings. So that is that for my side. So I guess if there are questions, I'll take them later after the other speakers have spoken. But right now, I'll just give a platform to the next speaker.
Okay, hello and good afternoon. And I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity to show what Technalia is doing on the public procurement. My presentation addresses how public procurement can foster innovation in the construction sector to achieve zero energy buildings. You know that about 14% of the European GDP is spent by public authorities. So, well, why not using some of that money to drive for energy efficiency and also for innovation? So I will show you through the case study of Sestao, a town in Spain, how innovative solutions were implemented in two social housing with the goal of being nearly energy zero buildings. Many of the innovative technologies to achieve this goal of being nearly zero energy buildings are out in the market, but maybe they are not available at larger scale, or they may not be mature enough. So they may need some support to be competitive. Technalia coordinated this project, the Papyrus European project, to implement those innovative solutions in nearly zero energy buildings by developing public procurement of innovation process. It was a 3-year project financed by the Competitiveness and Innovation Framework Program of the European Union. So, as I said, besides Technalia as coordinator and also as the technological expert, let's say that we are technical research center in Spain. So we act as the coordinator and the technological experts, and also we had ASM as the dissemination leader. And then for local public entities which participated in the project to implement and launch the public procurement in 4 demo sites. One of them was located in Oslo, another one in Enkreis in Germany. Well, you can see where they are located. Another one was located in Torino, Italy, some social housing. And the last one, the one that I'm going to explain today, it was located in Sestao, in north of Spain. You have there the Papyrus project website where you have all the information, I believe, available if you want to have further information on this. Well, what the challenge of the public procurement of innovation is that we need to shift or change our minds on how to procure. And one of the main differences of this procurement is that procurers do not define products anymore. What they describe is their identify functionalities or needs to meet a goal. So our goal in this case would be to achieve nearly zero energy buildings. For that, in the Papyrus project, these functionalities were focused to achieve nearly zero energy buildings, both new and existing ones that needed some retrofitting. Therefore, we defined the following 5 functionalities, which can be common to any type of building, regardless their location or condition, and so on. And these are, as you can read there, to reduce the energy losses to the opaque envelope, decrease solar gains in summer and energy losses in winter for the windows, technologies that provide good quality natural daylighting, materials and elements that store thermal energy, shifting heating and cooling peak loads, and lightweight prefabricated panels with the function of reducing CO2 emissions. I must say that in the case of Sestao, only the 2 first functionalities were tendered, were procured. So, in this diagram, you can see the process that we went through for the procurement. There is a preparation phase where the needs are defined, and of course all this process has to be planned ahead. It's more like a project, let's say. So everything and everybody who is involved, it takes needs of multidisciplinary teams to go ahead with this procurement. So they all have to be involved from the very beginning. And we would like to underline the importance of the dialogue with the market. This is something probably new for procurers, at least here in Spain. This is very important because suppliers have to know about our needs before going into the tender. So we let them know through this dialogue and also get the feedback from them about how mature is their products or the technologies. So we can go with one kind of a process or another one. So after this preparation phase, we have to then write all the documents and the clauses and think about criteria and weights. And as you will notice, it will take a longer time than a regular public procurement because there's no such thing as writing document for this kind of procurement. So it takes a little bit longer. Then once we'll publish or release the tenders, the procurements, and we will receive the offers and we need to evaluate them. And of course, if we are evaluating innovation, we'll have to be an expert on innovation. So it will have to be achieved, or you will need a team according to these needs. And last but not least, the contract. So once the solutions have been implemented or they've been awarded and implemented, there needs to be a technical validation because they're saying that they are meeting our needs, but they have to prove it. Otherwise, it will not be a valid contract. So this is more or less the process that we went through to procure innovative solutions for these two buildings in Sestao. It's a supply and installation tender. We have here two new buildings, social housing, to allocate social housing, and for which procurers are looking for solutions to reduce energy losses through the opaque building envelope and solutions to reduce energy loss in winter and solar gains in summer through the windows. As you can see, the tender is divided into lots because probably the supplier of one solution is not manufacturing the other one. So, well, as you may know now, the European directives, it's mandatory to divide it by lots, and so that way this policy of it's trying to foster innovation will be reached by smaller enterprises. Well, these are the, you can see in the screen, the criteria and the weights that we use for awarding the solutions. It was based on energy efficiency, as you can see, but also sustainability, installation, maintenance, and others, and of course, economic criteria. You probably surprised of that high weight of the economic criteria, but I must say that we wanted to have joint procurement among all the local procurers that were involved in the project. That was not possible due to legal barriers in each of the countries. So we tried to, well, what we did was to launch a coordinated tender among all the public entities. And even if there were sub-criteria, depending on each of the case studies, one of the partners could not lower the economic criteria due to their legal, it was mandatory for them. So all of the public entities, the contracting entities, assume that percentage also. So as you can see, some life cycle costs are taken into account. All the criteria is described to how to fulfill it, and well, some of them are subjective, and others are calculated by mathematical formula. So at the end, what we are seeking is the most economically advantaged tender, which may not be the lowest price. Okay, and also I would like to mention that you are not seeing there innovation as an award criteria. The solutions that were that the contracting entities were looking for were much more ambitious than the ones that were at the market at that moment, and also the needs that the needs of these contracting entities imply that the fulfillment of the requirements have to be achieved through innovative technologies. So as you see, it was not included as an award criteria. Well, as I said before, our goal was to launch a joint procurement. That was not possible, as I explained before. But we managed to have a cross-border evaluation team in which all the contracting entities were represented. And because innovation requires of technical experts, as I said before, Technalia was also part of this team, together with the technicians of each of the procuring entities. And then we also had one legal expert from the contracting entity where the tenders were evaluated. So once the innovative solutions were awarded in Sestao, for example, as I said before, they were supply and installation. It was a supply and installation tender. So they have to be included in the architectural project. And a second tender was launched to award the works of the main contractor. It was only part of the whole building, and therefore the remaining works have to be included for the implementation of the solutions. This is the awarded solution for the opaque envelope. As you can see, it's a complete envelope system, which includes the external cladding and the interior finish, with very good thermal insulation. And this is just a detail of that. It was integrated in the drawings, the details. This is the solution for the window. One of the requirements was that it has to simulate wood because of the surrounding of the area of the building. So this polyurethane framework window it fulfilled these needs, and also had very good thermal properties. As I explained before, these solutions were included in the construction drawings by the architect team. So all the information was there available in the project for the main contractor. But still, they have to combine all the works between the awarded solutions and the main contractor. For the technological validation, this was a new construction building. So due to the duration of the Papyrus project, it was, in this case, the technical validation was performed by energy simulations, and not as the other study cases where the retrofitting cases, where we could monitor on site pre-intervention, doing a pre-intervention monitoring campaign and a post-intervention monitoring campaign. The results of the simulation by the implementation of these awarded solutions were quite promising, with a reduction of between 30 and 40%. Comparing to the standard solutions, both on heating and cooling demand. And so we will try to validate those figures now with when the construction works are finished. So I would like to finish by mentioning this guide here. We publish within the framework of the Papyrus project, which includes all the lessons learned through the process, and also we developed this e-learning course. It's both are available at the Papyrus website. And well, thank you very much for listening. And well, hope we can answer some of the questions next. Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists and to the organizers of this webinar. This is Riana Ackley speaking from ICLEI, and we'll now move to the Q&A portion of the webinar. As a reminder, you can ask questions by posing them into the chat screen on the right-hand portion of your computer. And I just wanted to do a quick overview of the presentations. Thank you to Ksenia for the overview of the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. Thanks to Curt for the overview of the Building Efficiency Accelerator Program, and Kedibone for discussing the City of Tshwane Sustainable Procurement Initiative, including building retrofits, along with research, mobilization and financing, creating a low-carbon and climate-resilient city, and to Olatz for discussing innovative solutions for achievement of sustainable construction through public procurement, focusing on nearly zero-energy buildings. So with that, we can move over to the questions. We have a few that have been submitted, and as a reminder, please feel free to send your questions in. So the first one is for Kedibone. Are there any support programs related to the sustainable procurement for the city provided by the national government?
Will this be for me, this Kedibone?
Yes, this is for, yes.
Oh, okay. No, we don't have any support as such from national government. So this was a City of Tshwane initiative. However, we what we do is to try and engage certain departments with, at national government, and also some agencies within national government. For example, there is an organization called the South African Local Government Association and the South African Cities Network that we've been working with on this process. So they are linked to national government. So we've been able to work with them in terms of capacity building when we actually were developing the sustainable public procurement strategy. So in terms of financing, the city has financed this on its own, from its own coffers. And from national government through those agencies, it was just, the monitoring and the process in terms of developing the strategy. Yeah.
Thank you for your response. And actually, the next question is for you as well, Kedibone. Are other cities in South Africa having do they have similar programs on sustainable procurement? So does the city of Tshwane share its experiences on public procurement and energy efficiency with other cities in the country?
Okay. Yes, for example, we've been speaking to the City of Cape Town. City of Cape Town has the public procurement policy. So they've actually developed that before us. So we've been learning from them, and especially with the ISO 14001 in terms of how they applied it. So there has been peer-to-peer learning. Also with another municipality in Eastern Cape, Nelson Mandela municipality, they are also going through the same process. So we've been in contact with them, but we have not had, actually with the two cities, we've not actually had formal interactions. It was just through inquiry in terms of how far they are with their processes. So we're still going to have formal interactions, whether them coming here in City of Tshwane or us going to them. So that learning exchange is being coordinated.
Thank you for your response. The next question is for Curt. You mentioned that BEA has 28 cities. Can new cities join the network, and what is needed to join?
Absolutely. There are essentially two levels of support that are provided by the Building Efficiency Accelerator. One is what's called kind of a deep dive engagement, and that's where there's support in the city for a more intensive stakeholder engagement process. But essentially any city could join the accelerator network by contacting WRI, and unfortunately I cannot get to back to my presentation.
Thank you, Curt, for your response. I think you might have accidentally cut off, but we're happy to reshare the slides, of course, afterwards to explain how anyone can join the BEA.
Riana, this is Ksenia. Maybe I can jump in and just quickly answer the question. I think I know what Curt wants to say.
Sure, please do.
Yeah, so he mentioned that there are two levels of engagement with cities, between cities and the Building Efficiency Accelerator, what is called Deep Dive and Light Touch. So there are 6 Deep Dive cities which are working really hard on developing city-level energy efficiency action plans, and they also chose particular policy to implement and the pilot project. Light touch cities, and these are really cities which any city can join as a light touch city. They join as a partner who can get access to any information and knowledge products available within the partnership network of Building Efficiency Accelerator, and receive technical advice or knowledge or information which they need in order to progress within their jurisdiction. And there is a dedicated website of Building Efficiency Accelerator which has a lot of information on the procedures how to join the accelerator, as well as partnership documents, and it's also possible to contact directly the team of World Resource Institute, and then they will definitely guide the city in the process of joining the partnership.
Thank you for your response. The next question is for all of the panelists. What are the main success factors to make sustainable public procurement effective?
Okay, it's Kedibone, City of Tshwane. I think for us currently, well, we just started with implementation, but I think the main successes lies with the political will that it's there, the support from the top, in terms of the commitment for sustainable public procurement. And also, if you're able to show, the case for cost savings and the long-term benefits thereof, I think that gives a comfort to the leadership to say, why not implement it? And then with the savings that we have, then we can focus on other service delivery mandates. So for us, the success is in terms of the political support that we have, and also in terms of because our office as the unit within the Office of the Executive Mayor, where we are positioned, it's actually fairly easier for us to drill down the message to other departments. As much as we might not have the buy-in from all the departments at the same time, but the ability to be able to filter in that message through the internal stakeholder engagements with the support from the executive mayor, the chief of staff, the council, and drilling down to top management and executives. So that has been the key factor in terms of the successes of where we are currently with sustainable procurement.
Yeah, I will agree with Kedibone that political support is one of the main issues in this to success in the sustainable procurement, as well in any other kind of politics in this sector. And we have to be looking at the long run, not at the shortest one. And I will say also that this political support have to engage all public servants. It's not just a matter of imposing it, but also to educate all the public sector in this field. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. I believe with that we're out of time for the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please feel free to submit questions to the panelists if you think of additional questions that you would like to ask. And with that, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Ksenia.
Thank you, Riana. And from my side, I just want to thank all panelists, great presentations, and of course all our participants who were very active throughout the webinar and submitted many questions. Thank you a lot. It was a pleasure having you here. And as I mentioned in the beginning, all the recordings and presentations of this webinar will be available online on our knowledge management system. You can see the website on your screen, and you will also receive a notification. And stay tuned for new webinars, which will be hosted at the Copenhagen Center. We will definitely have more on very different and interesting topics. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.